dark clouds rise, they won't worry me, for I'm sheltered safe within the arms of God. He walks with me, and naught on earth can harm me. Sheltered safe within the arms of God. Soon I shall hear the call from heaven's portals. Come home, my child, it's the last mile you must run. I'll fall asleep and wake in God's new heaven. Sheltered safe within the arms of God. So let the storms rage high, the dark clouds rise, they won't worry me, for I'm sheltered safe within the arms of God. He walks with me, and naught on earth can harm me. Sheltered safe within the arms of God. He walks with me, and naught on earth can harm me. Sheltered safe within the arms of God.
Praise God. I'm glad that that is true. Thank you, quartet. Didn't they do a great job? I listened to a ladies' trio earlier this week and thought, wow, we probably ought to send them out to travel some and to listen to those guys sing. And wow, ought to send them out to travel some. And enjoyed that. So, and some of them have already done that, been there and done that. I think Dr. Pope traveled 4 or 5 years, I'm not sure. So he's probably not hankering to get back in a van and to run everywhere. But anyway, thank you for that great reminder, and I'm glad I'm sheltered safe within his arms. Praise God. I think Gary how long did you travel, Brother Gary? Just 1 year. All right, so he's got 4 to go. In NCAA sports, he'd have 4 years of eligibility yet left. And we'll redshirt you for a while and put you in. But anyway, great. Enjoyed that so very, very much. Be careful when you walk out. We're trying to throw salt. You're going to hear the vehicles running around, trying to get some salt down and protect you from falling or turning an ankle, that ramp. You might be able to just skate down it. A couple years ago, we added the stairs on that ramp between the Student Center and main campus, and people complain about the steps just being the wrong distance. You know, when you're going down them, it's just weird. Yeah, you think that's weird. Try to go down that ramp when there's ice and snow on it, and go down on your tailbone all the way, and you'll thank the Lord for a step that's a little awkward. And so be careful tonight. Be careful, and we'll do our best, and maybe even tomorrow you'll have to watch some ice. We're not sure, but be careful. I've appreciated the revival, the practical side, the emphasis on holy living. I I love the idea that holiness isn't just a theological truth that we embrace, but it ought to be evidenced in work clothes. Holiness ought to translate in the way you conduct your office work. It ought to translate in how you treat somebody on the phone. It ought to translate in how you deal with tough situations. Amen? And if it doesn't, God has something better for you than that. Because it's just not relegated to the church. It's not just relegated to this experience that you just nail down one time and say, I got it. Well, thank God you got it. I want to see it. Amen? And Brother Hutchison has reminded us of that, the importance of the crisis, but also the importance of the process in walking with the Lord. And thank God for that truth. And I endeavor to walk in it and to challenge you to walk in it. He's coming again to share what God has given to him. He's a guy who spans many generations. I'm a bit amused tonight. I glanced over just a moment ago and he had an iPad and he's flipping through it. This morning he had one of those preacher notebooks that had to be older than me, and because I'm not sure you can buy those things, and handwritten, I think. And the other night he had a type thing in a folder. He's just doing it all. He's got that handwritten, he's got typewritten, now he's got a screen. And we'll see how he does tonight. He's going to come and share with us.
Well, thanks, Doc. You sound so confident. What's he going to do with that thing? Well, I don't know. What's your high score? Oh, my. Yeah, I do have it all, and you're very observant. And yeah, that notebook, I guess it is older than you. That sermon's older than you. It's just as true as the first time I gave it. Why wouldn't I keep giving it? Oh, I love when they invite me back. It happened about once in 10 years, which means most of the people that heard all that stuff the last time, they're either dead or graduated or gone. They're just Floyd and 2 or 3 others that are still around. So I can tell all the same old stories. I got a whole new crowd here. I love it. I love it. I do appreciate the opportunity. I deeply appreciate it, and I'm humbled to be asked. And I thought today, if I could have 1/3 the impact on you young people that those old gray heads that I sat out there and listened to, who came and stood here when I was your age, and still remember so much, and it helped me. So many of those things helped me. They helped me grasp some things that I had just didn't quite have put together in my mind. They helped the pieces come together. And, God used them. God spoke through them. No doubt about it. And that's the best that I hope for, is that God will take some of this. And you left out the one that I was reading off the back of an old envelope. You didn't notice that. Yeah, I've got it all. In fact, some of my best sermons started on the back of an old envelope. And tried to get them on here. And my worst fear, I just don't trust this completely. It's great on the mission field. I love it in open air meetings. It won't blow away like a piece of paper. And when the lights go out, and often they do, right in the middle of our sermon or service, this stays on. Oh, I like it. But on the other hand, if something goes very wrong, if this thing dies up here, I'm dead in the water. That's a little latent fear, so I don't completely trust it. We'll see. We'll know in about 30 minutes. But I've enjoyed it. I so enjoy it. I wish it were possible to chat a little with each and every one of you. And I'm grateful to the ones that have taken time to talk with me and learn a few names. It's always interesting. People are interesting. You know, you've got a great zoo here. No, I mean the Cincinnati's. I don't mean here. Yeah, I mean across town, the big one. Yeah, I've been there. But it's not nearly as interesting as here. And this is not a zoo. No, I don't go to the zoo much. I'd rather go to the mall. Not to shop, sit and watch the people. People, or an airport. Oh, there's a good one. I love to sit in an airport, especially overseas. Just watch the people come and go. All kinds of people, every shape, size, every shade, every color. I saw a group of stewardesses walking down the way in Malaysia late one night. Big layover. I never saw human beings like that. I don't know how you describe what shade their skin was. They were almost luminescent. Some Asian. And people are incredibly interesting to get to know them and to enjoy them. And I hope you find that in ministry. You know, that helps ministry. That makes ministry sweet. It sure keeps it interesting. Sometimes it makes it heartbreaking. But people are people anywhere you find them. And whatever they look like, whatever their shape or size or background, they all have the same need. They all have the very same need. And that's why this gospel works everywhere it's tried. It does. Praise the Lord. I want to invite you to turn with me to the book of Ephesians tonight. Ephesians chapter 6. I'm sure a familiar passage. We may look at it a little differently than sometimes. But Ephesians 6 and beginning at verse 10. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in His mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore put on the whole armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground. And after you have done everything, to stand. Stand firm then, with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, with the breastplate of righteousness in place, with your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. In addition to all this, take up the shield of faith with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. And pray in the Spirit on all occasions with all kinds of prayers and requests. With this in mind, be alert, always keeping on praying for all the Lord's people. Amen. I want to talk to you primarily. I want to focus this little while on the first part of that passage. You thought, oh boy, another one of those on the armor of God. Well, that's good preaching, but not here, not now. Somebody else will do that here. I want to focus on the first part. Be strong in the Lord and in the power of His might. Deceit is Satan's chief weapon against us. God's word is our chief weapon against him. Yeah. We might title this Good versus Evil, or Truth versus Lies. We are living in times of unprecedented deceit. Multitudes are engaged in deceiving and being deceived. I don't know about you, but that's one of the worst things I hate most is being lied to. I don't like to be stolen from, and I don't like to be lied to. When I catch somebody in a bald-faced lie, they've got a long way to come back to credibility with me. I don't like liars. God doesn't either. And there are so many of them. And as Christians, well, let me back up. We see a big political battle. You know, that's where we see so much or hear so much lying, isn't it? Don't you get tired of it? Just get tired of it. Get tired of not being able to take people on face value. As Christians, we have to learn to look past the surface of things. We learn to look beneath or behind what is apparent and see that we're in a spiritual battle. And that's exactly what Paul is describing here. We're in a spiritual battle. Behind the human faces and voices in the headlines and news shows and all that, there are greater, darker powers and personalities vying for influence in the world of men. Human beings are mere pawns in a great struggle between good and evil, between God and Satan, the host of heaven and the hordes of hell. You ever read any of Frank Peretti's novels? Does that ring a bell? Who's familiar with that? Several. Good. Any of you would like it. It's hard to put one down. At least, well, he's written way a lot more than I ever read. I got to hold the first 2 or 3, maybe 4 of them. I thought the first one, it about kept me up all night, 2 nights. Yeah. He gives a story of human conflict, but he weaves with it, he's really good at painting a picture of the spiritual battle. Literal demons and angels, unseen but hovering near and over and all around these people being tempted, being tried, being tested, being deceived, so on. It's very interesting, and it really makes you think. And it is just, I think, very true to reality. We are in a spiritual battle. There's so much more in the unseen realm than what we see and touch, hear, and smell. The war we see raging in America is not mere politics. It is a life and death struggle for the soul of this nation. And oh, may God help us. It really caught my attention. I was reading the NIV, if anybody wondered, when I read this. And it really gripped me, the way it is stated here, to put on the full armor of God so that when the day of evil comes, I think we're there. When the day of evil comes, that you may be able to stand your ground. And after you've done all you can do, stand. Stand. We're there, church. You know, we're there. Let's think about it a few minutes. Think about the war we're in. It is a war of good versus evil. God against Satan. And the age-old question is why? It's surprising when you begin to realize or discover how many other people ponder the same things you do. And I think all thinking people, thoughtful people, have to ponder, have to wonder why. Why this? Why evil? It's an age-old question. Did God make evil? Did God create evil? Now, I know there's a verse in the Bible. That's one of those you have to look deep to understand and grasp the context. You take it just by itself, it doesn't make God look good at all. But there's a context there that makes it look very different. He said, I create evil. But he didn't mean the devil. He didn't mean the principle. No, God didn't. Let me tell you something. God did not make the devil. He made Lucifer. He did not make a devil. You know, human reason, human logic, I might say, reasons that if God made everything, if He's the creator of all things, He must have created evil, the devil, and all the suffering that stems from all that. That troubles a lot of people. That really bothers some people. It is sometimes even used as an excuse for sin, for evil. But friends, God did not make a devil or Satan. What God did make is free will. What God did make is the power of moral choice. And He vested that in angels and then in men. And choice gives the potential for good or bad. Choice gives opportunity for reward and merit, which otherwise could not be. There can be no reward where you have no choice. What's the reward? And, you know, even greater than that, and I think I only came across this thought in more recent years, but choice is the only circumstance or condition in which love, real, genuine love can function or be meaningful. I dare say the biggest part of it, is there anybody here that doesn't have one of these things? Some of your teachers probably have one that kind of flips, but sorry. But yeah, it's almost universal. Oh, you have no idea how universal. I've been so far out in the sticks in India, miles from a paved road, in a community with path after path. You couldn't call it streets, but paths of houses of sticks and palm leaves tied together with vines. Yeah. And, the people over there, they look like they stepped right out of the Bible with their clothing. I'm not making fun. I love it. I love it. When I was growing up and they gave you a Bible, it had some pages interspersed in there with pictures. Who else remembers that? The old pictures in the Bible they give you in Sunday school and showed the pictures of the people and the women with their veiled heads and their long flowing robes, and the men with long flowing robes, or maybe when that's hiked up and for activity or work and so forth. Anyway, but the clothing over there looks biblical. It's like they just stepped off the page of my old Bible. You're out there, there's cows walking around. You stand in the pulpit and look down the end of the platform, such as it may be, and the door, right out the door, there's a cow laying out there chewing her cud. And look out this way, and there's a dog walking by, or a rooster. Yeah, it's like you stepped into another century. And right in the middle of it all, a cell phone goes off. And somebody reaches way down in those robes. You didn't even think that thing had a pocket. They reach way down in there somewhere and pull out a cell phone and start talking on it. It is surreal. It's amazing, this world. But, from your cell phone to your tablet to your laptop or desktop, nearly all of us have a device that we could program. You could teach this thing to say anything to you. I love you. You're so sweet. Aren't you cute? I like those dimples. Even that wart is cute. You're just the greatest. You're so smart. Aren't you great? Some of you may have that on yours. I don't know. Doesn't do much for you. It doesn't really do much for you. What's fun about that? It'll say whatever you make it say. It has no choice. But oh, what it does for us when somebody that doesn't have to says something like that.
That's good.
Oh boy. When some little shiny-eyed girl looks up, sort of coos those words, I love you. I still remember the first time I heard Miss Joanne say that in my direction. Well, I do. I remember the dress she had on. I remember the whole 9 yards. I hadn't got over it yet. Yeah. Ooh, that did a lot for me. It's still helping me. Yeah. Wow. I better quit. Yeah, why? Because nobody made her do it. Nobody twisted her arm. She decided that all by herself. Yeah. And that's the magic. That's the beauty. That's the wonder. Did it ever occur to you that God likes that too? God likes that too. And he took a big chance. I mean, he went way out on a limb, so to speak, after a fashion, when he turned creatures loose in his creation that could choose to love him or hate him, to embrace and follow him or turn their back on him. Choose. And all of that to knowing that there are those who do and will choose to love, serve, walk with, who will want him just like he wants us. God wanted that, and so he made choice. He made choice. Lucifer went the other way. Lucifer turned his back. Lucifer was foolish enough to think he had a shot at being God himself. And evidently, he took a lot of other angelic beings with him. And now their probation period, their time of choosing is over. Angels aren't choosing anymore. Their choices are fixed. We're still on probation. We're still making choices. That doesn't have a good ring to it, probation. Did you know your president is on probation? And your VP of students, or whatever you are, no, really. I mean, you're VP of everything. And your teachers. Yeah. Your roommate. Oh, you didn't know that, did you? And your roommate's on probation. Well, don't worry. Your evangelist is too. We all are. We're making choices. We're being tested. We're being tested. And when we leave this world, our probation ends. Our choices are fixed. Choice is over. At least as far as these moral, like we are now. But that's why there's good and evil, because there's choice. And God allowed it. God made that. And we choose if we'll be a saint or a devil. John Wesley said, you will be one or the other. There is no in between, not really. You'll either be a saint or a devil. That's our choice. Angels have made theirs. We're still choosing. There's no redemption for angels, I've been told, because the angels are like individual creations where we, mankind, humanity, are progenerative. Yeah, I had to go look that word up too. Procreated. We come from each other. We are all connected. We're all from one father and one mother. And we are all connected. And for that reason, there could be one Redeemer to save our race, to redeem our kind, and bring us back to God. Praise the Lord. Amen. Praise the Lord. We have another chance. We can be redeemed through Jesus Christ. What a battlefield. This world is not the battlefield. No. This world's not the battlefield. You are the battlefield. The biggest world there is just behind these two eyes and between these two ears. Right in here, there is a universe bigger than anything you've seen out there. Your private world, your personal world, that's the battlefield. That's where Satan does the mind games. That's where Satan is trying for our mind and our heart. The hearts and minds of human beings is where this battle is being fought. He's trying every way he can to alienate us, or keep, initially to keep us alienated from God. And even as Christians, he is forever trying to turn us back. It's what he does. He wants us alienated from God, from each other, from our own self. And yeah, there's just no end to people who are alienated from their very self. It's no wonder this world's in such shape. There's so many people, they can't get along with themselves. How are they going to get along with anybody else? They're not getting along with themselves. It's Satan's work. It's what he does. And it's not that Satan wants us. No. We don't mean anything to him. He only wants to deprive God of us because he knows better than many of us know how God values us.
That's right.
What we mean to God. He doesn't want God to have us. He can't touch God. Who's going to poke God in the eye? The only way he can get at God is through me and you. The only way he can hurt God is with me and you. He knows that. That's the only interest he has in me or you. But he does. That's why he doesn't quit. I had a man come to me many years ago when I was pastoring, a prominent man. And he came to me very distraught. Yes, he came to me. He took me aside and wanted to talk. And as it turned out, to pour out his heart. He was distraught. And he pulled me aside and, in strictest confidence, confessed some moral failure. I guess that's the only time in the ministry I felt like a priest. I had to be priest that day. He needed somebody to tell, and he told me what he'd done. And he was just distraught over it. And what had triggered this is we were coming up to the time of year when we had church elections. And his conscience was just so hurting him. He said, I feel so unworthy. I feel like I've let everybody down, God and everybody else. I've let them down. And he said, I feel like I shouldn't serve. Now, this was a guy that not only served in the local church, but beyond that, in the wider circle of church. And not only that, but community and on and on. But he said, I just feel like I need to give it up. I've shown myself unworthy. And you know, I felt like if God ever helped this old boy as a pastor, I felt like God the Holy Spirit spoke to me there that day, at that time. And I looked at him, called him by name. I said, no. No. Yes, you've royally failed. Yes, you let the devil get the best of you. You let the devil have his way there. But for you to just call in the dogs and quit and go home, for you to pull back from serving the Lord, letting God work through you and use you as he has, that's all the devil wants. If you do that, you're giving him exactly what he wants. No. You are demonstrating here and now repentance. I sense your remorse. It's very obvious how badly you feel. And you should. But that's a good thing. That's a token of grace. That's a token of grace. There's no end to people who've done a way a lot more and worse than you've done, and they don't feel a bit bad about it. Some are proud of it. And you're brokenhearted over it. That's a good thing. You've asked God to forgive you. Now you've asked me to forgive you. He does, and I do. You need to get up, dust yourself off, learn a lesson, and go on and be better for it. Don't give the devil what he wants. He doesn't even want you. He just doesn't want God to have you. That's what this is all about. He just doesn't want God to have you. I'm glad he did exactly that. I'm glad he did. We are the battlefield, church. Think about the array of armaments, what we're up against. Well, don't think about it too much, but we do need to be aware. The lies. That's Satan's chief weapon. That is his number one tool. It's the first one he pulled out. It worked so well with Eve, and he's used it ever since. Why would he change? It's still working. It's working too well. Jesus said, he said to the Pharisees, you are of your father, the devil, and the desires of your father you want to do. He was a murderer from the beginning, does not stand in the truth. There's no truth in him. When he speaks a lie, he speaks of his own resources. He is a liar and the father of it. That's what Satan is all about, is lies. And that's why lying is such a terrible thing. It is satanic. Yes. Beginning in the garden, he deceived Eve. You know, that is so, I'm not beating up on Eve. You know, the Bible never says Adam was deceived. Eve was fooled. Adam walked into it with his eyes wide open. But Eve was deceived. You ever thought about it? There was one rule. One rule. Not a bunch, not a big one. No, there was one rule. Only one to keep. Think about it this way. There was one stop sign on the whole planet. And Eve drove right through it. Deceived. She was deceived. He fooled her into it. And he's carrying on that plan. He's still working it. Like I said, why would he change? It's still working. Deceiving people, fooling people, making evil look good, convincing us that good is evil. We've never seen it more than we are seeing it right now in our own society, all around us every day. Making what will only bring emptiness, heartache, pain, and destruction, making it look so good. Like it tastes good, it feels good, it's fun. Destroying yourself. Deception, that's what he's all about. Always has, always will be. And it's just as true as that is, truth is our chief weapon against him. That's why we need this word, young people. That's why, you know, this book is not magic. It's not a good luck charm. It's not an amulet. There's no magic. There's no hocus pocus here. No. And yet, having said all that, I tell you, having this word in our mind and working its way into our hearts, there is a power there like no other. There is power there. God strengthens us. God fortifies us. God enables us. God prepares us against the devil. Our weapon against him. Like we read in the rest of the passage, take the helmet of salvation, the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. We need truth in ourselves, in our own heart, our own mind, our own spirit. If we're not honest with ourselves, we can never get anywhere. It has to start there. Being honest with ourselves and being honest with God. Having truth within ourselves and honest with each other. To be transparent, to be truthful, to just be what we really are. Is there a secret weapon? The good news is Satan doesn't have one. No, as powerful as he is, he doesn't have any secret weapon. All he has is the same old, same old.
It's true.
1 Corinthians 10:13, no temptation has overtaken you except as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with every temptation will make a way of escape that you may be able to bear it. There's no secret weapon that Satan can bring up against us. And you know what's even better news? We do have a super weapon. We do. Sometimes, well, lots of times, we feel like we really need it, and we do. Our secret weapon comes from Him. You know, I heard about another one time. Some little guy. Well, I don't know how to dress this up any better. I mean, it's an old joke. I probably got it from Reader's Digest. Long time ago. Okay, I'll just come out with it. There was this guy in a bar. Okay? I said it. One of those. And, you know, he's sitting up there. Okay, he's drinking a 7-Up. Okay? And maybe that's why. Maybe that's why this other guy was picking on him. Some guy just sized him up as being kind of small. Didn't look like very macho. And this bully comes around and just starts picking on, trying to start a fight. And the guy tries to ignore him at first, and he just keeps on. Finally, he said something. Maybe he said something about his dog. I don't know. But really made him mad, and the guy said something back, and just as fast as lightning, that guy pulls some kind of a move, and next thing the little guy knows, he's laying out there on the floor. And he starts to pick himself up. The big old bully says, "How'd you like that, bud? That was judo from Japan." And guy's shaking his head. He starts to climb back up on his stool, finish his 7-Up. And the guy says, "What about this?" And he does some other kind of move, and this time the little guy, he just flies halfway across the floor, this way. Oh, that hurt. He's trying to get up. Old bully's standing back there laughing at him and says, "How'd you like that? That was karate from Korea." And before the little guy could even get back to his stool, the guy just hauls off and does some really big move and just sends the little guy flying almost out to the door. And the big guy calls after him and says, "That was Tai Chi from Thailand." The little guy didn't say a word. He just shook his head. He just walked on out the door. Walked on out, got out of Dodge. And big guy, he steps up to the bar and he's just laughing and boasting, carrying on about what a fool, what a dumb guy that was, what a coward, what a nobody, just going on about it, and whoom! All of a sudden his lights went out. And all of his friends see him crumple down on the floor, and they turn around, their eyes are big, and who's standing behind this bully on the floor but the little guy? He's standing over him, looking down at him. Then he looks up at the bad guy's buddies, looks at all of them, and he turns around to leave again. He kind of says over his shoulder, he says, when he wakes up, tell him that was Tire Tool from Chrysler Plymouth. Yeah. Well, you call an old preacher, you get these old jokes. Yeah, secret weapon, super weapon. Sometimes it doesn't take that much. We need a super weapon. We do. We need His power. That is our secret. Our secret is understanding our own weakness. Our secret is realizing we are no match for our foe. Our secret is realizing that we are totally outclassed in this fight we're in. We need help. We've got to have it. We've got to have it. And God Almighty promised it. He promised it. And this passage exhorts us to lean hard on it and rely on the power of His might. To stand in His strength, not ours. In His wisdom, not ours. In His power. He is the oak. We're the ivy. Oh yeah, we're just a little ivy vine. He is the mighty oak. And the closer we cling to Him and entwine our life with His, we have His strength. We can stand the storm the oak can in His strength. Praise God. That's a secret. When our strength fails, His will be there. When we need a big boost to make it, He can give it. He can give it.
Yes, He can. Praise God.
I grew up in Mississippi. I know you never guessed that, but I did. Grew up doing hard work. Already told you about tree work. I learned that at home. It's what my dad was involved with. He had his own business. I always had a job. I've never not had a job. But we took down trees and did, back in those years, back there in the late 60s, early 70s, did a lot of lot clearing, like in new subdivisions. Go in and the contractor, builder would stake off a house lot, and within that, stake off a house seat where the building would sit. And we'd roll in there early of a morning and find those stakes and get in the very center of it all, in the center of the house seat, and first thing we did was build a fire and start cutting and stacking brush, burning brush. Of course, the bigger stuff we'd leave to one side. It would be loaded and hauled later in the day, but clearing, burning brush. I've burned brush all day long in Mississippi, June, July, and August summers. I look back and don't know how we did it, but we did it. I'm here to tell about it. Couldn't do that now, not like that, but we did it. Hard work. And pine went to pulpwood. Hardwood went to firewood or logs. Pine went to pulpwood. I've loaded a lot of pulpwood. Maybe that's why I love Jerry Clower stories so well. Pine's heavy wood. Sticky, sappy, it's heavy. You start getting up, some diameter, you can get up to 300-400 pounds on a big stick. We cut it 73 inches. I still remember it so well. I'm sorry, it was 63 inches. 63 inches. That came up to right here on me. I could cut a pulpwood stick, a measuring stick, without a ruler. I'd just get a stick, cut it this long. We'd measure off the pulpwood sticks, cut it up, hand load it. I'll tell you what, when it got to be late in the day and picking up that pulpwood and putting it up on the truck, that'll make a man out of you. Oh, it will. That'll put some meat on your bones. And when I got up to be about 16, 17 years old, when you kind of like to think you're getting strong and all that, kind of like to show it. Well, that's what boys do, right? My dad had two black men that worked for him for years and years and years. In fact, they had known me since I was in diapers. Oh yeah, they'd always been around in my life. I wouldn't take anything for them. I owe my life to one of them. That's another story. But they meant a lot to me. We worked together. I've rubbed my sweat in theirs many a day, picking up, going up together on loading a truck. And old Benny was the oldest one. I don't know how old he was. I thought he was real old back then. He might have been barely 50-something, going on 60. I thought he was old. He thought he was old. And when we get down to the big sticks, the butt pieces, getting that up on the truck, sometimes he'd be moving pretty slow by then, and he'd kind of groan a little. I'd walk over there and say, "Get out of the way, old man." That's what I said to him. He loved to hear it. He said, "Yes, sir." He'd step aside and let me have it. He's glad of it. I wanted to help him. And old John was otherwise known as the Black Angus. John was like a bull. He was built. He could handle it. But even old John let me get on the big end. Oh, yeah. I'd grab it. He'd grab his end. We'd start to lift and go up on that truck with that big, heavy stick. And old John would almost grunt. He'd say, "Me and you, Rick, mostly you." I don't know how many times he said that. "Me and you, Rick, mostly you." We go up. I wouldn't take anything for those days. You have no idea how many times since those days in church work, in the happenings and goings on of life, home, marriage, raising kids, and again in the Lord's work. I don't know how many times I've been faced with situations, things. And I've gotten down on both knees and looked up and said, "Me and you, Lord, mostly you. You get the big end. I can't do it. If you'll take the big end, I'll do my best on mine. But it's me and you. It's mostly you." He's never failed me. He's never failed me. No, not once. That's how we win, young people. Realizing it's mostly Him. For all our trying and all our effort, and when we've done all that we can do, it's mostly Him. And He won't lose. He won't fail. His strength is perfect. Praise God. Praise God. Stand together with me, will you? Lord Jesus, we thank you for these nights and the day we've had together. It's gone by so quickly. Lord, thank you for this word that we have gathered around and searched together. Would you cause this word to take hold in us?
Yes, Jesus.
By your Holy Spirit, may it live in us, abide with us. Lord, when we need strengthening, when we need shoring up, Lord, when we need help, may this word come to mind and heart. May we find your strength welling up within. We're counting on you. God, be with these young people, with this staff, this faculty, this administration. Lord, thank you for this place, this ministry. Oh God, keep your hand upon us all. Lord, it sometimes seems this is the evil day. But Lord, you're greater than all of it. Keep us by your mighty power. Do you have a closing song today? Oh, I thought you was primed and ready. Yeah. I just feel like singing. I like the way they sing. I just want to hear it one more time. And you know, if there was anybody that was counting on an altar call, if you meant to come and didn't, if you need to talk to the Lord about something, if you need some help from Him, don't let this time pass. This is your time. Yeah, if you want to slip out from where you are, we'll all get around this altar with you. We'll help you pray. We love to pray. You pray. If you need to get a touch, if you need to get some help, if you just need to drive a stake down on some issue, if you need to get something on the altar, you can do that. You can do it. You can leave it there.
Sure.
Whatever you need to do, God wants you to. Now's your time. Now's your time. Come on, while we sing.
Song number 101, if you'd like to join in the hymnal. He giveth more grace when the burdens grow greater. He sendeth more strength when the labors increase. To added affliction, He addeth His mercy. To multiply trials, His multiplied peace.
couple have stepped out, and I can't help but wonder if there are others who ought to respond tonight. Tonight, I don't think that it's necessarily a I need to get right with God moment. It may be. I wonder if it's, God, I'm at the end, I need you moment. God, I'm over here wrestling with this stick, as he called it, and I've got to have some help. I can't get it past my knees. I can't get it up high enough. God, I've got to have your help. And I wonder if you ought to step out tonight and just say, God, would you help me? I've tried it in my own strength. Oh, I love that verse. It says, be strong in the Lord and the power of my might, right? No. It says his might. And if you're like me, it takes a little while for that verse to dawn on you. You wrestle with it and you lose sleep over it and you get gray hairs because of it. And then it dawns on me, it's his problem, not mine. He wants to help if I just give it over to him. And when I do, invariably I'm amazed that his grace is sufficient. He doesn't always just take the entire load, but it's manageable because now he's with us. So what are you struggling with tonight? What do you need to just roll over onto him tonight? What do you need to say to him? Take, God, I've tried. I thought I've given it to you before, and it just seems like I'm still wrestling. I'm still grappling. I'm still fighting. God, I'm giving it to you. And do you know what I think tonight? I think some students ought to come. But I think there are some staff and faculty, moms and dads, who ought to be up here as well. God, I can't. God, I can't. God, I've got to have your help. And you need to lead the way tonight. Perhaps there's some husbands and wives that just need to grab hands. Say, the devil's been whacking us with all kinds of things. We're going to come. We're going to pray for our family. We're going to pray for the situation that we're dealing with, whatever it happens to be, and you'll just come. What about it tonight? Why don't we sing that second verse again, Brother Dave? And if he's speaking to you, why don't you just come? Let's not wait. Let's not wait. He wants to help you.
When we have exhausted our store of endurance, when our strength has failed, ere the days have done, when we reach the end of our Lord and resources,
let's gather in for a good season of prayer. Let's just come in and lift our voices together. I've challenged you a couple of times for this revival, not just to come up here and stand and observe like a bunch of vultures, but engage. Pray. Pray as if you were the one kneeling there and needing help. I know sometimes the words flee, but do your best to pray for that person, that individual, perhaps even yourself as you come tonight, because He's here. Praise God.